Now, before we get started, I really want to put a big spoiler alert on this because I'm gonna talk a lot about spoilers. You've been warned. I think this is actually like the biggest show right at the moment because there's like hardly anyone talking about other stuff. They're all focused on WandaVision, so I thought, well, why not? Hello everyone, this is Insta here, back again, and I thought why not do another thoughts on video. I think you've already guessed it. I'm gonna talk a little bit about my thoughts on WandaVision. Now, of course, I'm not gonna be able to give my full, comprehensive final opinion because we still have 2 more episodes to go and I'm pretty excited for them, but I thought I just want to share my views, share my opinions, share what I like, what I don't like, and so on. Now, WandaVision is, I think, a very unique and a very bold move from the MCU to pull off, because the first 2 episodes were very slow. They were definitely a slow burn, to call it like that. I remember, like, after the first episode, I went online, went on Instagram, and I saw like tons of people like hating, bashing it, saying nothing happens, it's boring, it's pointless, it's stupid, like, what is this? It's like a 50s sitcom with no context, it doesn't have any meaning, what is going on? And I sort of get it, because yes, the first 2 episodes are without a doubt the weakest ones, in my opinion. They don't have anything going on, it's just, yeah, pretty much like everyone says, a 50s sitcom. Now, of course, everyone with a little bit of intelligence knows that it's not just gonna stick with that. Anyone with a little bit of film intelligence knows that something was bound to happen. Throughout the first 2 and even the first 3 episodes, you see breadcrumbs being thrown around. You notice things, you notice hints, you notice Easter eggs, you just know that sooner or later this big reveal is gonna come up, this big twist, like where we're finally gonna get some explanations, because random things happen throughout these first 2 episodes that don't make any sense, but I was like, you know what, we're gonna get our explanations, let's just sit back and enjoy. And it's kind of disheartening to see a lot of people not having the patience for that, to just immediately hate on it and say that it's boring and it's bad. Guys, I mean, that's what I mean when I think that the MCU is doing a very bold and brave thing here, actually taking its time to set up a story, taking its time to explain to us what we are seeing, what we are actually witnessing, and I really appreciated that. It's not like everything is explained directly to us in the first episode, like so many other MCU movies, that everything is just explained, and the film or the series just opens with this huge narration by Anthony Hopkins as Odin, if you know what I mean. But we didn't get that, and I really appreciate it. That being said, the first 2 episodes were kind of a slow burn. It's really just until the 3rd episode, where we have our introduction to Monica, that things really start to shift into higher gear. So at the end of episode 3, where Monica is like pushed out of their reality by Wanda, and she lands outside the Hex, and you see all these cars and helicopters flying around going towards them, that was really the moment where I was like, okay, now we're gonna get some big reveals, now we're going to get some big explanations and revelations in the next episode, and that's exactly what we got. Episode 4 really was the turning point for a lot of people, I think. I mean, I even saw tons of memes that pretty much meant that episode 4 changed the game, changed everyone's opinions a little bit, and because that's pretty much this big episode that takes place during the first 3 episodes, but shows it from the other perspective, from the, outside of the Hex. It shows us what has actually been going on, and it fills in a lot of questions and gaps that you have during the first 3 episodes. Monica is introduced as the daughter of the best friend from Captain Marvel, which I thought was pretty nice, pretty sweet, seeing her all grown up and everything. Her coming back from the blip in the hospital was definitely a very interesting and intense scene. Her, of course, also coming into at S.W.O.R.D. headquarters. Her getting in contact again with director Hayward, which is a new character. It's pretty much this big guy running S.W.O.R.D. It's pretty much the big director. And tons of old characters coming back. I mean, Jimmy Woo from Ant-Man and the Wasp is back. Darcy is even back, which I found a pleasant surprise. Episode 5, I think we can all agree, was just pure fan service. The ending I didn't expect at all. I mean, I knew some kind of cameo was bound to happen, but I envisioned Doctor Strange, or maybe even Robert Downey Jr. making an appearance. I didn't know, but the last thing I expected, honestly, the last thing I suspected was freaking Evan Peters making his return as his well-beloved image as Quicksilver. That was a very, very nice thing to see, him coming into this universe. Although his role is extremely minimal and without a doubt, I mean, so far, again, I'm only just giving my thoughts on the first 7 episodes. We still have 2 more to go. And I do think he's gonna have a bigger role in the final 2 episodes. As of yet, his role has been pretty much pointless apart from fan service, because that's what it is. It's pure fan service. I mean, he comes back at the end of episode 5. He has this big role in episode 6 with the Halloween things going on. Wanda having 2 kids, of course, according to the comics. It was all nice. I mean, they're staying very true to the comics. This is a very, very honest and respectable adaptation from the comic books, because a lot of characters and Easter eggs from the comic books are implemented in this series, and especially for comic book fans, that's gonna be a wonderful thing to behold. I myself, I've never read a single Marvel comic in my life. It's just pure the MCU for me, so of course I'm not aware of everything, but I do enjoy it very much, kind of discovering these things as something new instead of recognizing them from the comics. Moving on, I do firmly believe episode 6, the Halloween episode, is the best one up until now. I think it's a very, very good episode, especially with the whole Vision character arc, where he starts to realize things are not really going correctly, that the things just aren't right. There's something going on, and and that moment, I swear to God, that moment where he tries to get out of the hex, and he tries to reach the people on the outside, and tries to convince them to help them and help the people inside, and he's like, the people need help, while he's literally dying because his body's being torn apart because he's trying to get out of the hex. That moment, it's been a long time since I was genuinely touched or like struck by a moment from the MCU. I think it's all the way back from watching Infinity War in the cinema, where I actually felt this emotionally touched by a scene, and I was extremely genuinely surprised by that this series was going to pull that off, and I really found it to be a very powerful moment. Moving on to the final episode, of course, it was kind of like, it was a slower burn. Episode 7 was definitely a few stages down from episode 6. Still alright, but still a lot of explanations. You know, the whole thing that Wanda expands the hex at the end of episode 6. Really cool, really nice. A lot of people like changing into their alternate versions into this new world. Very sweet to see. Episode 7, a lot of explaining to do and everything, with of course a huge plot twist at the end, which I'm going to delve in later. Explanations aside, do I like WandaVision as a whole right now? Yes. I was very skeptical because WandaVision is a great concept, and it's something very new, it's something very original, and I'm all for originality, especially when it comes to the superhero genre. Because if there's any genre that's so freaking done to death, it's the superhero genre. Let's be honest. Is there any groundbreaking material here? Is there any revolutionary storytelling going on? No, it's pretty much everything you've seen before, but it's really refreshing to see a more smart and more careful approach to a story in the MCU. That's what I mean with that the show really takes its time to explain things and to reveal things instead of showing everything in the first episode. That's one of the strongest points. Storytelling aside, the acting. Everyone's doing a great job. I mean, Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda is great. Paul Bettany as Vision is great, excellent. I mean, the two have such great chemistry. They're a beautiful couple. They work so well off each other. They're great. The two kids, although obviously kid actors, they're doing fine. I mean, it's not like repulsively bad. I mean, they're doing fine. Of course, the appearance from Quicksilver, great fan service. But apart from that, I really want to focus on the side characters for now. Because we have old characters and we have new characters coming in. Great, that really gives us the feeling again that this is still all one big connected universe. Great. As far as the side characters that I like are probably Agnes and Jimmy Woo. Agnes, I think, is great, played very well by Catherine Hahn. She does her job. It's like this typical comic relief from those old television shows, you know, that typical comic relief character that just comes barging in to the main character's house and just starts to crack jokes and everything, and she does it really well. Randall Park as Jimmy Woo, last saw him in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Again, not really that much of input, but it's still a welcome sight to see. It's still very nice. Now, that's sort of where I'm gonna stop with the praising, because there are three characters, two new ones, one old one, that I do have problems with, namely Darcy, Monica, and director Hayward. Let's start with the old one, Darcy. It's been a while since we saw her. She's only been known from the two first Thor movies. Now she's back here, and it's nice. Her character has definitely grown, because you can tell in the first two Thor movies she was just this backup assistant. She was this quirky girl. Here she's an actual scientist. She's actually recruited by S.W.O.R.D. to come and investigate and come and help them out, give them answers. That was actually really nice to see how she has grown into this actual scientist. And my problem, again, her character is there to just give exposition and everything, and it's nice to see her interact with characters like Wanda and Vision. But my problem with her isn't really the character, it's namely the acting on her part. Kat Dennings, I've never seen her apart from the Thor movies, so I don't know how she is in other roles. I don't really know what her capabilities are, but in here, she's not really doing a good job, in my opinion. She is by far the weakest actress in the entire series. I mean, as long as she's delivering funny lines, it's alright, but she has moments, she has scenes that are very serious, that are emotional, where she's panicking, or where she's pleading for help, or where she's confused and she doesn't know what's going on. And in those moments, sorry, but I just don't believe anything she says. I just don't. And it's kind of disappointing, because I was excited in seeing her again. But it's a disappointing return in terms of acting. Moving on to the two new characters, Monica and director Hayward. Moving to director Hayward, he's not doing a bad job, this actor. My problems with these two people really are the characters. Director Hayward is probably the most cliched character in the entire series. He's just this power-hungry guy who wants to do everything for money and power for the sake of power, because, you know, power, that's it. He starts off like this alright guy who greets Monica back after her being gone for so long, of course, and you think, okay, it's kind of alright, but you just know sooner or later this guy's gonna become an asshole. And that's exactly what happens. He's just an asshole for the sake of being an asshole. He's just so cliched. And it's disappointing to see that Marvel is still tackling characters that are so cliched in a series that actually takes risks. And I just don't need it. I really believe we can move past those cliched one-dimensional characters. Monica is without a doubt the best new character. And she's also, apart from Wanda and Vision, she's definitely the main character. She's been a protagonist ever since episode 4, and I don't know anything about her character. I've picked up that in the comics she eventually becomes a superhero of some sort. I don't even know what her powers are. I'm just gonna purely judge her on what I've seen in the series. Long story short, Monica starts off alright, she's alright, but in episode 7 she turns into a superhero when she tries to get through the border of the Hex a third time all by herself without any protection. The moment she manages to go through the Hex, she becomes a superhero. She instantly has superpowers and she's a superhero. And it was the most random and abrupt thing I've ever seen. I was like, whoa, okay, I guess she's a superhero now. And she's just running around, you know, trying to butt heads against the dick director Hayward, who's just being an asshole the whole time. And she, of course, is like, no, you're wrong, we have to do it like this. And he's like, no, that's not true. And I'm like, guys, come on. And Monica, I mean, she's not a bad character, personally. She's just not interesting. I just don't care. I mean, yeah, she has a backstory. Yes, her mother died from cancer or whatever it was. Yes, that's enough foundations to create a sympathetic character. It's just her turning into a superhero all of a sudden just felt so random and so abrupt, and I just didn't buy it. I didn't buy it at all. I just didn't buy it. Now, last thing I want to say is the strongest aspect that I found about WandaVision, about this series, was the story in terms of Wanda's motivation of doing what she's doing. Through almost the entire series, up until now at least, it's made clear that Wanda is behind everything. She has created the Hex, she has created this village in which reality is completely like she wants to. She's broadcasting her own television series with people she kidnapped and put inside the town to act like this lovely neighborhood where everything's perfect and everything is great, and yes, lovely. She steals Vision's body, brings him back to life with a new conscience, because Vision doesn't have any memory from before the town, Westview, and Wanda is behind all of this, and it's made clear. There's one scene in an episode where the people outside lure Wanda out of the Hex, and she's like, leave us alone, we're happy the way we are, leave us alone, I've lost everything, go away. And I'm like, that's great stuff. Wanda is a hero. I think she's a very good character that has many layers. She's also a very tormented character, because not only was she forced to kill the love of her life in Infinity War, the love of her life was brought back to life like a minute later and then killed in front of her eyes. She basically witnessed her loved one being killed twice. If that's not something that can break a person, I don't know what is. Her fighting Thanos at the end of Endgame, saying like, you took everything from me, it was completely warranted. Although, at the end of Endgame, where she's having this conversation with Clint, it really gave me this feeling that she accepted it. She accepted it. She accepted what it is. Vision was gone. That's life. She accepted it. But now, in the beginning of WandaVision, it's made clear that 2 weeks after the events of Endgame, she breaks into SWORD headquarters and steals Vision's body. That sort of felt abrupt and out of place. But still, I thought it was a very interesting thing. Her being so tormented that she just completely drops a huge part of her moral compass just so she can try to bite through the pain she's been feeling. Bringing Vision back to life, kidnapping and mind playing all those people to form their own little society in which everything seems perfect, but it's criminal what she's doing. It's criminal, and she knows it's criminal, and you know a part of her is just feeling horribly, but another part is just so fed up with what happened, and she's just trying to get her life back together, and she's just refusing to see the light, no matter how many times Monica or the SWORD agents try to convince her that what she's doing is wrong. She just refuses to see it, and I loved it. It was such an interesting turn of events. It was such a unique thing to see in the MCU, because we've never really seen this big of an anti-villain slash hero, where a hero that we've loved for so many years is doing something so terrible, but you understand and you feel for her, and you know it's bad, but you completely feel for her. And I was already sensing the great conflict at the end of the season, where I was like, yes, this is gonna be so good. It's gonna lead to such good shit. Until episode 7 happens, and this twist happens at the end of episode 7, where Agnes is revealed to be Agatha Harkness, a witch, and she's actually the one who's been mind controlling Wanda into doing what she's doing. She's the one behind everything. She is the one who's mind controlling everyone, including Wanda, giving the outside world the idea that Wanda is the one doing all these terrible things, but in reality, it's Agatha Harkness. Now, this twist makes sense, because if you rewatch the previous episodes, which I did, it makes sense. It's not like they just did this twist for the sake of twist. It makes sense. You can obviously see signs and breadcrumbs in the previous episodes where you're like, alright, I completely believe that this was Agatha Harkness instead of Wanda. I believe it. That being said, this twist, for me personally, this twist ruins everything. It ruins every bit of emotional investment I had in this story. I found it so interesting that Wanda, a beloved character, is just so broken by grief and by possible guilt that she's being pushed into doing this just so she can sort of have the quiet and peaceful life with her husband that she always wanted. But life took that away from her in the most gruesome way, and now she's doing all this and she knows it's wrong, but she's still doing this because it's like the only thing that she can come up with that maybe sort of can heal her wounds. But no, it's just Agatha Harkness. It's just this big cliched bad woman, witch person who's doing this for the sake of evil. And that brings me right back to the whole cliche thing. I'm sick of it, seeing how cliched some of these characters are written, just like director Hayward. I just don't understand why they keep on doing this. I understand it's Marvel. They've never had the strongest villains. They've had great ones, but the majority of them are pretty weak. And I just don't understand why even now in WandaVision, freaking 13 years after first Iron Man film, we still get these cliched villain characters. I just don't understand, and it's really disappointing. I'm hoping Zemo in Falcon and the Winter Soldier will be better, because I really liked Zemo. He was one of the best villains ever in terms of the MCU. He was a very compelling villain, and you understood everything he did. And there was not a single cliched thing that came out of his mouth, and that's why he was so good. But now this Agatha reveal happened, completely out of nowhere, ruining every emotional investment I had in the story, and it literally ends with her doing this typical evil laugh, like "Muhahaha," and I was just, I get it, it's her character and everything, and I get it, but it was just so frustrating. It was extremely frustrating to watch, personally. It was a good twist in terms that it didn't make any sense. It makes sense, the twist. You can believe it, but it just ruins it. It ruins it. I wasn't a fan. I mean, I can completely see how a lot of people like this twist because no one saw it coming. I didn't see it coming. No one saw it coming. And in terms of that, it's a good twist. And I can perfectly understand why people are like, come on, Insta, you're being too hard on this. It's a good twist. You didn't see it coming. It was good. And besides, Agatha Harkness is a very famous villain from the comics and blah, 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 blah. And I firmly understand and I completely believe you. But for me, it just didn't do it. So right now, I'm enjoying WandaVision. But definitely episode 7 ruined a huge part of the story for me in terms of investment, and that was disappointing. I am very curious to see the last 2 episodes. I hope they will sort of turn everything around. I hope that we're gonna get some very nice gut punch moments, because we most certainly need that. But that being said, I enjoy WandaVision. It's a very unique, very brave thing they're doing. I completely applaud them, but the lack of in-depth characters, some extremely cliched characters, one badly acted character, and then a twist that just ruins a huge part of emotional investment, kind of ruined a huge part of the series for me, and it's a shame. It's a shame. Let me know what you think about it. Maybe you find it even worse than I do. Maybe you love it. Maybe you hate it. Let me know in the comments. And thank you as always for watching. This was Inza, and see you guys later.